Representative Chris Banning, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Well, actually, thanks for coming to the Capitol.
Hey, you
I should
bet.
say.
I'm glad we've been trying to do this since
Yeah.
February, I think. We finally caught each other.
Absolutely.
Now that session's over, you had a little more time. So, well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Well, I was born in Fort Smith, Arkansas, raised in Arkansas, and joined the military at 17, left at 18, and got stationed at Tinker Air Force Base. And, from back to Arkansas. Let's go. I was born in Arkansas. Let's go back there. So I was born and raised in Arkansas, and I was always a part of a team, a football team or some kind of a team, somewhere along the line. And when I was getting out of high school, I thought, what part of a team am I going to be a part of? So I joined the Air Force at 17 years old, left when I was 18, got stationed at Tinker Air Force Base. And as I was stationed at Tinker Air Force Base, the Oklahoma City bombing happened. The aftermath, and myself and a few others volunteered to work the aftermath of the Oklahoma City. Now, we weren't the first responders. We were there after the first responders, helping wherever we could. And it was that aftermath and the Oklahoma City bombing, although that was a very sad day to see, sad weeks, but we saw Oklahoma come together and the Oklahoma spirit, and that's what kept me in the state of Oklahoma.
Stayed here, huh? So that was mid-90s. You were in the military. What about your folks, your mom and dad? Did you have and siblings? Did you grow up with a big family?
I did. I've got an older brother, 2 years older, that love him to pieces, but we fought.
Sure.
He's what makes me the tough guy I am today. Is my older brother, and I've got a younger brother that is 16 years younger than me that joined the military.
Okay.
So he's a Marine, once Marine, always Marine. So got to see him graduate boot camp, and so my parents got divorced when I was an early teen, and my dad got remarried. My mom never got remarried, so ended up in Oklahoma and been loving it since.
Yeah. So after you left, how long were you in the military, and now how'd you end up in Bigsby Broken Arrow area?
So in the military, I was an electrician on the AWACS at a Tinker Air Force Base, and I loved it. I love working with my hands. I love welding and anything electrical. I just love working with my hands. So when I got out of the military, I did 4 years, or just under 4 years, and I got out for well, let me restart. You'll have to cut that part out. But inside the military, while I was in the military, I worked at Tinker Air Force Base, and I was an electrician on the AWACS, and I love working with my hands. I really do enjoy working with my hands. And if as I got out, I got employment offers all over the place, and one of them was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and ended up managing an electrical low voltage communication company in Tulsa.
Okay. Yeah. So you learned some leadership, work ethic, discipline through your military career, I guess. And
I did mainly my dad. I worked for my dad when I was growing up. There was he's an entrepreneur himself, so I worked for my dad. He taught me that work ethic, and the military continued that work ethic.
Right. So did you always have an urge to serve, or when you decided to go in the military, did you find that patriotism or that service?
I went in to serve, but you've got to remember that time frame was the time frame of Top Gun.
Right.
And we had everybody that's wanting to join because of this movie, Top Gun. I mean,
Sure.
enlistment was way up. And myself, I watched Top Gun, and I thought, man, that's what I want to do. I want to fly and ride the fast motorcycle, and then I joined the Air Force and realized Top Gun was made around the Navy. It was just pretty comical, but I joined on the buddy deal. But that's why I joined is that patriotism that one movie.
Yeah.
Just it.
Not
just one movie, but it's still a great
Sure.
film. But that movie brought it to light to serving your country, serving your nation, being a part of something bigger than you. And that's why I wanted to join, to serve my nation and to be a part of something bigger than me.
Yeah.
And I think that's what that's what a lot of us strive for every day, is just being a part of something bigger than us.
Yeah, that movie kind of made it look fun as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you come from a family of military service, and
Not
were you kind of the
immediate
first
family.
one to serve? Or?
My grandpa, he was a Purple Heart recipient, and he was a belly gunner in World War II, I believe. But other than that, I've got an uncle that was in, but not a real deep history of military service in my family.
Okay.
My immediate family, I was the only one, and then my younger brother joined along with me.
Really? Okay. And he's 16 years younger, you
Yes,
said?
yep.
Wow. So when you ended up at Tulsa, had you already met your wife, or?
I had not. So my wife, we had met at a restaurant 5 years prior to me asking her out, and I just happened to run into her at what's called the Tulsa Charity Fight Night in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I was with my business, and there was a lot of celebrities and doing a boxing match for charity event. And my wife, she was talking to Dennis Rodman over there, and over on the side. And I thought, is that Katie over there talking to Dennis Rodman, you know? And then they took a picture. She sat in his lap, took a picture. I was like, is that Katie sitting in Dennis Rodman's lap? And after that, after we went through the night, a few hours later, and probably a little bit of liquid courage, I'm not going to lie, a little bit of liquid courage, I asked her out. And 20 years later, here we are.
No kidding.
So
Yeah. Is
so
she
going
from the
on to
Tulsa
more.
area?
She's actually from Okmulgee.
Okmulgee.
So just
okay.
south of Tulsa. So born and raised in Okmulgee. Her family own Coleman's All Beef Burgers and Holloman Iron and Metal, and she's even intertwined with the Mabry Bank family. And
So she comes from a family of business owners, entrepreneurs. too?
Mabry Insurance now. Yeah. So
Oh,
she's
wow.
her whole family is just a whole line of entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
and a lot of very successful, strong women.
Really?
Yeah, it's really it's impressive to see the women in her family to do as well as the men. It's in that age, it was different to see a woman to be completely as successful as a man.
When y'all met, was she working down there, or was she doing something else when y'all met?
When I met her, she was working 3 jobs.
Yeah.
So she was working at a restaurant, and she's actually working at 2 different restaurants, and then she worked at a nursery on the side, but she didn't get paid from the nursery because she loves plants and flowers so much. She got paid in plants and flowers.
Well, nice.
But she worked 3 jobs when I met her, and I thought, this girl has work ethic like I do. I think this might work out.
Yeah, man. So you're in Tulsa, you were working in electrical supply. Is that what you?
Yep.
Okay.
Gray Bar Electric.
Gray Bar.
Gray
okay.
Bar, Annixter.
Supply.
I sold my first company to Annixter International. Actually, I sold it to Accutech, which is a division of Annixter. But that's what I got into, was the electrical and communication supply side of things.
You took your military service kind of and went into the private sector, or
More of the technical
technical
and
side?
more of the technical side of the military service, of low voltage, what a diode is, what a resistor is. On the low voltage side, that actually really helps out, and the communication side.
Wow. Okay. So talk to me about how you got into owning your own business, or how did that start?
You know, I had a guy approach me 20 years ago and asked, would you open your own business if we own 45% and you own 55%? What do you think about opening your own business? And we'll financially back you, and you just turn around and make it grow. You know, and so that's what we did. We turned around and made it grow, and we actually grew it too fast. There's a lot to be said about incremental growth in business,
Sure.
as you know, as a business owner. If you can outsell your capital really quick, and that's what we did. We outsold our capital. We sold that company to the Choctaw Nation, and it was an asset sale, is what it was. It was an asset purchase, because we had 23 employees, and we were way over our head. We didn't really. It was a good experience. I'm glad to have the experience, but at that time I thought, how in the world am I going to get by this? I'm going to have to let people go that I promised I would have their back. But we had $4.5 million worth of contracts, and we had a $400,000 loan that was maxed out, and we needed more capital to get the contracts. And the Choctaw Nation stepped up and really helped us out. And I went on with the Choctaw Nation. I was the vice president of sales and marketing for Choctaw Defense Services.
So you stayed on with them after they?
I did. I stayed on for a few months, and then realized that I hadn't fulfilled my entrepreneurial
Right.
spirit. And I thought,
It's hard
I'm
once
gonna-
you've had that.
yeah, I said, I'm going to take off. I'm just going to do this one more time. I think now, if I was to do that, I would probably just stick around, because I'm done being CEO for a little bit now. But I do own my own company now, but I'm not going to grow one to that size, the tens of millions, anymore.
I think that's a good point. If we could stay on that for a minute, people starting their own business, whether it's an overhead door company or a little shop, little restaurant, you either don't have enough capital to start, or you grow so fast that you grow out of your britches that
Yeah.
you can't take on as much work, and you hate to tell a customer no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's the difficult part, is telling, when a customer hands you, then we actually had $4.25 million in contracts, and we didn't have the capital to perform them. And we had the expertise, we just didn't have the capital. And we had to start these projects in weeks, and could not start these projects. We did not have it. But Choctaw stepped up and helped us
That's
line that out. But, I teach a lot of entrepreneurial classes, veteran classes, because my businesses are all veteran owned businesses.
right.
And I tell them, when you're opening your own business, if you'll work as hard for you as you would for somebody else, you'll be successful. But a lot of these entrepreneurs, they'll start out strong for the first couple of weeks. Then they'll realize they're the CEO and they can sleep in till 9 o'clock and
Right.
go golf at 1 p.m. And they'll do that because they're the CEO and they don't have a boss. And then 3 months later, they're wondering why they failed. And it's because they would work for somebody else very hard, but they won't work for themselves that hard. And that's what typically drives these entrepreneurs down, is they'll put in 10 hours a day for somebody else, but they wouldn't do it for themselves.
Yeah, most people, I would say, they need the 9 to 5. They need to be told where to be. They need the structure. It's really hard when you make the rules and you
Oh, yeah.
decide when to be there and when not to be there.
And some people enjoy that. They realize they start their own company and then realize they need that structure, and they
Sure.
want that structure, and they want that consistent paycheck.
Sure.
But as an entrepreneur, there's no such thing as a consistent paycheck.
Yeah, benefits and
Yeah.
steady paycheck every Friday.
It's whatever you want to pay for. There's your benefits.
Right. When your wife was she involved with the business as you guys were growing businesses and starting businesses?
She did all of our expense reports, which that's when her name's on the loans as well. This is their third company. So when her name's on the loan as well, she wanted to make sure that people weren't overspending. So I had someone who really cared about our expenses overseeing those expense reports. And from time to time, she would take it too far, and start really scrutinizing these expense reports. So I
Sure.
said, hey, let's pick and choose our battles. Let's not have that one right now. We need these guys in a good mood when they're in another state.
Sure.
We need them productive, not non-productive, because we're beating them up over a $10 tip.
Sure. Yeah.
$10 tip too much.
Yeah. But you need someone that has skin in the game, that
Yeah.
really cares about it.
Yeah. What about your wife? Does she?
A little bit, about the same. Helps where she can, but she knows that she has to have her own job because, we would never get along working with each other. So,
Yeah.
but she's kind of one of those. She's an educator, so she's
Yeah.
kind of one of those that she knows she needs somewhere to be, and kind of like in the summertime,
Yeah.
she needs that job. Needs
Jumps
to know
in and
where to
helps
go,
out, yeah.
Now she's in leadership roles, well, it's a little bit different, but
With your business?
no, with the school.
Oh, at school. Okay.
Yep, she's an assistant principal, but
Okay.
she's like, we can't work for each other. We'd be divorced in a week. But she still helps. It's
Yeah.
family based. You know how that is. I mean,
Yeah.
whenever we need to go, we go.
I
So,
went in to help my wife at her restaurant one time, and that was good for me, because it's very difficult for entrepreneurs to walk in a business, especially a small business, and not have ideas and perspective. You could do this and save money, or you could do that, and people don't. Small business owners don't want to be told what to do. That's why they own their own business.
that's right.
So when they have some person with an entrepreneurial spirit walk in and try to navigate things, you'll get thrown out really quick. So I finished up my day of flipping burgers.
Now you're just a customer?
Now
Or
it's just a customer. Yeah.
Did you the same thing when you started your businesses and when you had investors? Was it hard for you to take direction from the investors or keep them in mind, or partners?
It really wasn't. So it's actually I've opened many companies. One, they haven't all been successful. We opened one that was a Maverick Cable Company. We started it up with roughly $140,000, $70,000 with a partner. And we had a bad manager on the ground. Google was our largest customer at the time. We were doing the outside plant dirt work for Google in Kansas, and realized that a bad manager could really drag you through the dirt. And he really, no pun intended, but he was dragging us through the mud on that one. But it lasted about 6 weeks. We shut it down. We didn't file bankruptcy or anything. We paid all our vendors, made everything whole, shut it down, said this dirt work is not for us. We're going to leave that to the professionals. And then opened another company with a an entrepreneur out of Tulsa by the name of Daryl Woodard, and we're actually the ones who sold a company to the Fortune 500. So that was Daryl Woodard and his amazing team. But walking into his office saying, "Hey, I've got an idea. What do you think about this business idea?" And we walked out with a handshake and an agreement and went into business. But that communication between my partners was always solid, was always, they realized that I had that entrepreneurial spirit and they just wanted to be the investor and hands off. And I think if they would have been involved, it'd have been maybe a different deal. But
Sure.
all of my investors and partners were all finance guys that did not want to be involved. They just wanted to see the financials and make sure everything was okay.
As long as everything was coming in the way
Yeah.
you guys had planned and they were good.
Yep.
That's a pretty good relationship. I
Yeah.
think that's hard to find, having a partner, even a family business. Family businesses fail a lot. And
Oh yeah.
partners struggle and butt heads, and investors, especially entrepreneurs, they don't want to, if they wanted a boss, they'd go get a job.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm sure that's hard to manage.
Yeah.
Investors and partners.
Yeah. It was this last business, it was just 100% owned by myself, of course. I'm married to Katie, so she
Sure.
owned it too. But it was 100% us, and it was a little. We lost a little bit more sleep at night than if we had a partner.
Sure.
That financial stability on the partner with the partner on the backside was always a little bit easier.
Split the load between partners
Well, you knew you
rather
could-
than 100%.
you knew you'd be calling someone,
Right.
and if they're financially invested in your business, that means they've probably been there and done that. And that was the point. I would call them when I would get in a bind and say, "Hey, how would you handle this? How would you navigate this? Or we have this bank loan. Should we get 2 different bank loans?" And they would typically help navigate those situations, but they would never try to abuse their
Sure.
their
Authority or-
authority coming in.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times it's lonely at the top, as they say, right? If you're
Yeah.
the business owner and everything's on your shoulders, it can be rough.
Yeah,
Hard to sleep
absolutely.
sometimes.
Yep.
Dude,
How long have you opened your business? How long have you been in business?
since 2012.
Okay.
So
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I was an outside salesman before, so kind of had that entrepreneurial free time. I had to manage my own schedule, so I always knew that I wanted to be a business owner, and so was able to start it on the side and not so much risk. And so after about 4 years, I quit and been doing it full time.
So you were commissioned, I imagine, right?
Yep, commission based. I
So-
loved being commission based. I love going out and hunting, killing what I had to eat.
Yeah.
I loved it. A lot of people don't like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people want a steady paycheck, and that's the hard part about business ownership. You're not guaranteed, but I loved it, and that's the reason I kind of started on my own.
That was mine in sales too, was that that I was already on that commission structure, so I already knew what it took to I felt like I knew what it took
Sure.
to
We used to have to go
live
sell
on
commission.
what you were selling,
Right.
know. And when you get in, you learn a little bit different, but it was a good lesson learned. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, but I think people, obviously you can go to college and learn management skills, the military, and learn managing people and materials and, costs and everything. And, it's great to go through a business, especially if it's an area you want to be in and own a business. If you learn every position, whether that's, in the office, outside the office, managing people and financing, you can always cut your teeth working for someone else until you go,
As long
start
as you
your own
can
business.
admit what you're good at and what you're not good at.
Right.
I was the sales guy, so I left operations up to somebody else. I left finances up to somebody else. They would give me all the monthly reports, and then I would go back out and sell. That's where it came that we were outselling our companies.
Right, yeah.
I would go sell,
sell too much.
and they were like, "Slow down." So,
So delegation you don't struggle with delegation. You don't have to keep your hand on every
Oh,
function
no.
of the business. And
no,
did you learn that early on, or have you always just been that way? You were able to delegate
I'm a
that?
very trusting person, almost to a fault, and it's got me in trouble a few
Sure.
times with that
Yeah.
one company I was telling you. But I'm just extremely trusting. When I hire someone to do a job, I expect them to do the job, and I'm quick to hire, or I think you're supposed to be slow to hire and quick to fire,
Sure.
and I'm quick to hire and quick to fire. So, I'm quick to hire that person, but you should know right out of the bat that this ain't going to work. You got to go. And typically, if you get past those few first weeks, you'll know that person. pretty
They
well.
start to show their true colors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
a lot of
sometimes in the interview process, you don't know until they're
Yeah.
there every day. And
this, one of my old business partners said people want more than they can handle. They want more on their plate than they can handle. They will surprise you when you put more of a load than you think they can handle. They will surprise you and pull that off 9 times out of 10. So I typically loaded people down. It was a lot of tasks.
you give people the rope to go.
But I made sure come Christmas time that they were well taken care of.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You got to take care of your people.
And whatever that profit is, they knew they were getting a portion. And so if they ordered a bunch of material and they didn't return some of that material when they were done, and they just threw it in the trash, that was their part of their paycheck that was going in the trash bin.
Yeah.
And I would make sure they all knew that.
So kind of a profit sharing expense. Yeah.
You
Keep them in mind. So they're watching expenses and make sure the business is profitable and you share in that. Yeah.
It is. And, there's a lot of those individuals that they also want ownership as well. And I now I understand, but I had 5 different people that really wanted ownership in the company. And what I did, instead of giving them ownership, I gave them what's called phantom stock ownership. It was ownership, but they had no risk whatsoever because they were phantom owners. Basically what it said is if they own 5% of the company, and I took $100,000 bonus, that they would get a $5,000 bonus. If I sold the company for $1 million, that they would get their portion. So when I sold this last company, on paper, I owned 100%, but dollar-wise and for the budget, I only owned 70% because the other 30% was divided up between 5 of my main people.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so they had skin in the game.
They did have skin in the game.
Yeah.
I like that
So
idea.
it worked really well to say, I'm not going to turn over any authority to you, but yeah, I'll share the profits with you. If you want to bust your tail like I do, let's go.
Get them invested in the business.
Yep.
When starting, as you guys are working your businesses, growing your businesses, how did starting a family come along through there? Started having kids. How old are your kids now?
Well, Annalie, how old are you? Okay, Annalie's 10. So we've got 10, 11, 18, 19, 24, 28. Am I right on those? Huh? 23, 28? Okay, 23, 28. So I have to ask my daughter how old they all are. Birthdays along the way.
Sure.
So, 6 kids, and I'm not going to say it wasn't a challenge, but I married Superwoman, and I don't know how she helped navigate, but I really married someone who loves kids. She loves being a mom. She loves being a wife. So she was at every game, every event, making sure the kids were at school, and she was making sure that I could do my job. That was the main thing, is just making sure that I could run the business, and she took care of everything else. And then she would come in and help me with the business.
Sure.
And she really took care of that part.
Good partnership, huh?
It really was, yeah. And I would jump in, and she would kind of nudge me a little. Hey, why don't you coach football this year? Why don't you really?
You have coached football, huh?
Yeah. But she would nudge that. I probably wouldn't have done it without that extra nudge.
Sure.
You need to get out there and be a bigger part than you really are with the kids right now. So, I've coached along the way and helped coach because of her nudge, and it's really been a good. And I'm not saying it was it's perfect. We've had our hiccups like any relationship, but we haven't burnt the house down yet. So that's good.
still together after all these years.
The house is still standing.
Well, it's hard to balance business and the kids, their lives, and your lives, and right.
It really is.
And still have time for you and her.
That's something we've talked about in the past 3 years. For the first 17 years, it was twice a year we would take a vacation and we would just get away. In the past 3 years, we hadn't been away one time, other than recently we went to Costa Rica.
Well, now that you're in elected office, it's even harder, and we'll get to that.
It is. It is very difficult. So this past year was the first time in past 3, maybe even 5 years that we've been, probably 3 to 4 years actually, that we've been just, a vacation is just when it's Katie and I.
Yeah.
A trip is me, Katie, and the kids.
The kids. Yeah.
So vacation, trip. Annalie, you didn't hear that.
But sometimes it's hard to relax when you have the kids too, and especially a big family.
Well, we actually, with our kids, they're our little best friends. We get along with Annalie driving up here with me today. She said, "Can I go?" I was like, "Absolutely." She loves my my coworker, Megan. So she wants to see her every once in a while. So she
That's
jumped in the car, and came up today. So
Y'all a pretty tight family then, pretty close. And
yeah,
now you have one in Utah or something, or
got
you
two.
got them spread out, right?
Yeah, two in Utah.
Two in
So
Utah.
we've got one that Hunter. He is 19 years old, and he's going to set the world on fire. He goes to the University of Utah, and he just did not want to be in Oklahoma anymore. He loves snow skiing. He loves snowboarding, not snow skiing.
Nice.
Snowboarding.
Go see the world.
He loves the beach. So I'm like, well, we can do a lot of things in Oklahoma, but we're not going to grow any more mountains. So, so I
The
understand.
skiing and the beach life is a little limited here.
Yeah, I said I understand your position. And my 18-year-old, he moved off to Utah, and recently now is looking at coming back to be a Oklahoma Highway Patrol.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he's you can't be one until you're 21, so he's going to start testing now and prepping now to be Oklahoma Highway Patrol at 21 years old.
Good for him. He may want to serve first responder, huh?
Yeah, well, I've tried to get him on the military side. He's just not there.
Yeah.
He loves the law enforcement side. So
That's pretty good.
Really-
He's still called to serve.
really excited that he's made that decision. And life might change and he might move
Sure.
a different direction, but that's where he's set right now. We'll see how that goes.
Well, speaking of service, so how did politics, your family life is busy, your military service, and then starting businesses, and how did you get involved with politics? Have you always been involved or
I haven't been involved
interested in?
or interested, which I didn't prioritize my time properly and realize how important it is to be engaged in politics and to be engaged in public service. So I was busy raising a family and running businesses. They can sell multiple businesses, kids, running around, sports, and I had so much going on. I didn't prioritize really understanding about politics. And one day, around the 2020 era when everybody was really paying attention to politics, I thought maybe I can help out. Maybe I can jump in. And then I started researching, what it would take to be an elected official. And I could not get it off my heart to get into politics. I mean, I was going to bed thinking about it, waking up thinking about it, thinking, Lord, what do I need to do? So I went and met with my state representative, Sheila Dills, and I really liked Sheila Dills. And I thought, well, I don't want to run against her. She seems like we align pretty much on some things. And at the time I didn't know much about politics. And she seemed like a really nice lady as well. And I thought, well, I don't want to run against her. And then I met with my state senator, which was Joe Newhouse. And I came to the Capitol and I sat in front of his desk. I said, hey, I'm gonna run against you. I'm gonna beat you. He said, well, the funny thing is I sat right in front of my predecessor and told him the same thing. So he said, I appreciate you coming and letting me know. And then I called him later, told him I decided not to run against him because he's a really nice guy and a Navy pilot and just seemed like a really great guy to me. So I backed up completely and thought, well, Lord, I don't know why you keep putting this on my heart. And then he then the state of Oklahoma redistricted because of the census, and then put another representative in Logan Phillips in over House District 24. And I really messed up. And I've told Logan this himself, but I never met with Logan to find out who he was and what he was about. So I didn't give him that respect to sit down and say, hey, who are you? What are you about? I just thought, okay, that's a sign. Let's run against Logan. And now, looking back, the best thing to do is run for an open seat. Running against an incumbent is a extremely difficult process because even if you beat that incumbent, then you have an uphill battle the minute you walk in the Capitol.
Sure.
Because
he was already established.
That incumbent has friends.
Right.
And now you have to let everybody know that you're not the devil.
Right.
So which takes time. It takes a lot of time. And when you get in, and I wish more people would realize this, after you win, and the elections can sometimes get ugly, when the election's over, it's over. High five. When you're done with the football game, you shake hands afterwards and you're done. And that's how more people need to take politics, is when you're done, it gets ugly at times. When you're finished, shake hands and move on. And it took Logan and I a little bit to shake hands again.
Campaigns get a little personal.
They did. Yeah. There was a lot of digging on this one, and he had a consultant that was set to win the election. I mean, he was out.
Sure.
He was out to win, and I was out, and I had a consultant that was out to win. So So it got a little personal at times, but we made it through it. And Logan and I talk now, and he realizes that, that I was sorry for not talking to him first, because I think that's, now looking back on it, is a little disrespectful, and not at least have a conversation.
Right.
And but we're moving forward.
But if you're called to run, you run.
Yeah.
You know?
And I should have, and if we had that conversation to say, hey man, I'm still called to run, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a little bit better. Wouldn't have been a burr to him so much, but me not having that conversation was probably something disrespectful on my side. But I'll work on that and do better.
Live and learn.
Live and learn. Live and learn.
So you came into office in 2022,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Representing District 24.
24.
And what areas is that?
That's Bixby, Glenpool, northern Okmulgee County. And I miss them. We've got Kiefer and
Some of those little outliers.
yeah, Twin Hills and Preston Public Schools, Beggs area. So yeah, some of those, the schools I have are Glenpool, Bixby, Beggs, Preston. I'm going to miss some, Kiefer. But I don't have the school itself. The only school that's actually in my that's sitting in my district is Bixby Public Schools.
Okay.
But the rest of it, I have constituents from those school.
Kind of hit the outliers.
Yeah. So if I need to jump in and help out, but they have their own representative that would be
Sure.
like Beggs Public Schools is not in my district, but I have all kinds of constituents that go to Beggs Public Schools. Therefore, they'll call me and ask me, because I'm the representative
Sure.
and I'm not for the school. So I have to work with their.
Cross lines a little bit
The
there. Yeah.
local rep,
Working with your
fine.
neighbors. And
Yeah.
so your first session. So now you just finished your what? Or second session
Should I win
Whatever
in November, I'll go into my third.
in your third session. Okay. So coming into your state house, did you know any of the process? How much of a learning curve was this?
Well, let me tell you. So this is true story. Some of the first I've told this story, folks. So I didn't even know. I hadn't even sat in a committee meeting yet. Didn't really know what a committee meeting was. I came to the committee meeting, didn't bring my computer. That's how you vote.
Right.
So first committee meeting, we had one bill that ran through, and I guess wind got around that I was going to vote no on this piece of legislation. I was talking to the governor. He said, hey, I don't want you to vote for that. I was like, yeah, I don't like it either. So I was going to vote no on this piece of legislation, but that got around. They said, hey, run this bill right through. We ran one bill in one committee, and they did it. It was extremely fast, and I didn't bring my computer in, and they were like banning, and I'm like,
So you can't vote?
what's going on? I looked at the board, and my name pops up green. I'm like, why did I vote? Did I tap a button, or what's going on? So after the vote was done, committee was over, I went over to the chairman. I said, hey, how did I vote yes? I don't know what just happened. I don't know what happened. He said, well, you raised your hand. I was like, I had a question. Like that wasn't a yes vote. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. And they just ran over the top of me because that's just politics though. When
Right.
you realize it wasn't personal, this is part of the political strategy.
So you're learning
To
how
get
this
things
thing
done.
works.
It was tough. I mean,
On
it was
the job training right there.
I went in his office. I didn't slam the door, but it wasn't a soft shut. I said, hey, what just happened in there? Why didn't you ask me how I was going to vote on that? He said, well, when you raised your hand, I thought that was it. But he said that wouldn't happen again. And I thought that day, I've got to learn everything there is to know about the committee, the service that we do here, the floor, the rules, the Constitution. And I really started bigging him. So I said, that will never happen to me again. But I didn't know. That's one thing. When people get involved in politics, they should at least, I've made so many mistakes. People should at least come out and sit through committee meetings.
Right.
Especially if you get elected, come up and sit through some committee meetings. But I didn't sit through them studies, committee meetings. And I should have really, but I was studying at home. I was studying
Sure.
everything at home. But
You don't know what you don't know.
you could not prepare for this Capitol.
Sure.
You could not, the outside world could not prepare anyone for what they're going to walk into in the Capitol, because it's a huge chess match of large government,
Sure.
large governance. I shouldn't say large government, large
And you got
governance.
100 representatives, right? And what, 49, 50
Yeah, 100,
senator. You got all these A personalities to deal with.
yeah, 101 representatives and 48 senators that we're crossing lines, and we all have different needs. But that's how our founders structured this.
Sure.
That way one group or one person didn't have complete control.
Sure.
And when you realize that's how it's structured, is a little chaotic, you can swallow it a little bit better because it is structured so one individual or one person. Now, there are individuals with more authority. I don't
Sure.
like using the word power, but because we have authority given by the people. So, but there are individuals with more authority than others. But it's those people, they didn't come in here with that authority. They came in here and they were voted by the people to have that authority. They were voted by the
Right.
representatives, like the Speaker of the House. He was voted by the representatives to have the authority to make certain decisions. So he didn't come in with that, and that's what what a lot of people have a hard time understanding is our leadership structure.
I'm sure your constituents call you and say, "Hey, we need to do this." Well, you can't just write it in stone, right? You have to
Yeah.
bring it in and have it be heard and go to both sides. And
Right.
right, there's a whole process of getting something done, right?
This last year, I had a constituent call that owns a pool company, and there's some really bad actors in the pool industry they're taking advantage of our consumers and our constituents, and it's just one after another with the attorney general's office getting involved. So tax dollars going out to the attorney general's office, lawsuits, the Department of Corrections now the guy's in jail,
Oh,
in
wow.
prison. So now our tax dollars are paying him in prison, all because we have bad actors and we didn't have certain regs over the pool industry. So I wrote a piece of legislation upon a constituent request to just write it's a pool license is what it is. If you're going to be a legitimate pool contractor, you need a pool license. And what that pool license would do would make sure if you were to build a pool for Billy Bob, you could still build a pool for Billy Bob, but you could put a lien on his house and you're at complete risk at that point.
Right.
So with a pool license, you would be able to run legitimately. And if they didn't pay, you could put the lien on their house. But right now it's the Wild West in the pool industry. And
Yeah, I need a little bit of consumer protection there. So.
well, we had one that a constituent that was out $107,000 and then had 2 back-end liens on her property because she didn't have a degree in project management. She didn't know, hey, get the sign off from the subcontractors and make sure
Right.
they're paid before I cut the final check. So she ends up with a pool that had a lot of issues, liens on her property and everything else. If this bill would have been in place, she would have been protected.
There'd been some protection.
And that's where, the government, Article 2, Section 1 of the Oklahoma State Constitution, the government is instituted for the protection, security, benefit, and to promote the general welfare of the people. That's our job, is to help people, not hurt people.
Right.
And that's when he brought this. Now, this bill didn't get across the line in the Senate. I'll run it again. And I've talked to Senate leadership, and I feel very confident that we're going to find some solution to move forward next year. And last year we didn't have as many bills hit as we wanted to, but that's this building. It's politics, and
So it's balancing that half the time and then going back to constituents and saying, here's why we didn't get something done, or
that one was
we'll try it
that one
again.
was a tough one. Telling my constituent we didn't get this done because it followed up with I'm running for Senate or I'm running for House next year.
Yeah.
I'm running against you
I
because
need
I'll
your
go in there
support.
and get it done. I'm like, oh wow. Actually, he didn't threaten that, but he did mention, when are you getting out? Because I might run behind you because we came out
Right.
of this happening in Blake.
Yeah.
But he was a little hiked off. But I said, we'll run it again next year and we'll see what we can get it done. But legislation, we're not the executive branch. Legislation takes years to get by sometimes. We had Representative Fettgetter. He worked on a piece of legislation for 9 straight years.
Wow.
Our floor leader, Leader West, same with him, 8 to 10 years or 8 to 9 years he's been working on a piece of legislation and finally got it done, I believe, this past year. But it takes a long time. And that's because you have 101 House members, 48 Senate members, all trying to figure out, do we need to move the wording around? Is it perfect? That's how it's structured, is so we can have those hard conversations to make sure, did we think about everything? We had a bill 2 years ago for the food truck industry.
I remember that.
Last year, we had to adjust it because we didn't think of everything.
Sure.
So we had to amend it immediately because
There's a lot of cleanup bills and
we didn't think everything through. And that's why we need to slow down and think about this legislation before, number one, is it biblical? Number one, is it number two, is it constitutional? And number three, does it help out the constituents we're supposed to be helping out?
Right.
But if it hits those three things, that's uh, it's going to take time to get to the finish line.
And it's by
Those are the
design.
things I look at.
Right. Yeah. You're a pretty strict constitutionalist, right? And you study the Oklahoma Constitution quite a bit, right?
I do, and I think the main reason is that I jump in is because of what an oath means to me, and my faith. I swore an oath to my Lord and Savior that I would support, defend, and obey a constitution, two constitutions. And if you think about that word obey, that's what my dog does. He's obedient. He obeys. That's as servants, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to obey that constitution. Not everybody can call something else,
Sure.
but we're supposed to obey that constitution. That's why I take it so serious. Because, what did the Constitution mean when it was written? This definitions of these words are changing over time.
Sure.
But that's why I go back to figure out what that word meant when it was written.
He says
important.
Your filter is it biblical? Is it constitutional? And does it help the constituents?
That's it.
I like that. Yeah. I think everyone should look at it that way, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Of course.
I know, but I go back and forth with some of the folks on the biblical side of things.
They get it across in different orders or what?
But with me, if it's kind of like, we're Christians, so we put God first and our wife second.
Sure.
And if we didn't put God first, if we put our wife first and God second, it would completely turn our marriage upside down. You and I understand that. So it's the same thing here. If we turn around and put the Constitution before
Sure.
God and the oath that we took, it might make a mess.
Sure. Yeah. So you're running again,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So this will be your third term.
Third term. Yeah.
Is that definitely 2 sessions per term, right? Is that how you?
Yep.
Is it
2 years.
third
term. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first 2 terms, every year seems like there's some major thing, whether it was COVID or education or property taxes or clean energy data centers. What had been the hot topic since you've been up here in the different sessions? And
That's funny you say that because every 2 years there's a hot topic. When I was running CRT, critical race theory,
right,
it was a really big deal.
coming out of COVID,
CRT, it was just, and I thought, what's CRT? So then I have to investigate and try to figure out what's going on. My second term, I didn't have a race, but so I don't really remember what those hot spots were. This year, the AI data centers is a big foreign ownership of land is a huge one. We've got.
tried to clean that up a little bit. You're a couple sessions ago, didn't you? The foreign ownership of land, try to tighten up those laws.
And it's in the Constitution that you cannot have foreign ownership of land in Oklahoma. It's constitutional. And this is what our Attorney General is fighting right now to say it's unconstitutional where another nation can come in and own majority ownership, not minority ownership, but majority ownership of a piece of land. So I believe he's right in that scenario to where you have another Islamic nation coming in to own a smelter plant, 60% ownership. And I know president's for this and
Sure.
the other governor candidate that's for this. But my issue with that whole smelter plant concern is the ownership, not the plant itself, but the ownership behind it concerns me because if it really is a national security issue, say it really is a national security issue and then they start making all this aluminum and they decide they now have somewhat control. What do? It's not an American owned business. It's not owned by America. This is owned by another nation, 60% owned by it's called state-owned entity.
Right.
60% are owned by another nation. That's what concerns me, and I believe it to be unconstitutional. Reading the Constitution, I've shared that with many members to say, guys, I don't see it to be constitutional, but we'll find out. As Supreme Court justices come through and they say, yep, we agree. Those words in the Constitution are actually what they
mean what they
say. Mean what they say, or how they're written. But how I see it is, you cannot, if you're an alien, you cannot own majority ownership.
Right.
And
that's a lot of that in the Northeast Oklahoma industrial development and things like that in Northeast Oklahoma. It's a big deal, right? And they're through our ports, and then like the data center, the Googles, the
Yeah.
Right.
But data centers, back on the data center, that's a big issue. And I think this is what when someone asked me, what's your position on data centers? I said, do you think technology is going to be a huge issue in national defense in the future? And they say, yeah. I said, do you want all your data sitting in another country? And they say, no. I said, should we just be anti-data center across the board, or should we think about it holistically? And they say, well, we need to think about it holistically. We don't just need to be anti-data center. But my position on that is, I think it really should be navigated at a federal level to say, if it's really a national defense issue, and I think it is going to be technology without a doubt, and I think it needs to be divided properly through the states. Which state can handle what and where without destroying the resources, if it is in fact a national defense issue.
So we're talking like water resources and other environmental concern, the power needs of the AI data center,
and also environmental issues.
Sure.
That's a big hit right now. Is what they're leaving behind. If they're but some of these are closed loop systems. I think we just really need to look in to find out, are these data centers are they really as bad as some people are saying? My history is in technology.
Right.
Moore's law states that technology will double. Paraphrasing, technology will double every 2 years. We've exceeded that, where it's probably doubling every year by now.
Right.
But I've been in those data centers. I've seen what they do, and I don't see. Think about when Google went up in Pryor. I don't remember anybody coming against Google.
I think everyone's excited for it.
They were excited. Yeah. We've got Google coming here, and they're funding, the schools, and they're helping out, and they're doing a great job. So that's what I think we need to do, is just think about it holistically. Maybe we're fighting one note mulder right now. Well, not we are, but you got the ultimately constituents that really want more information. So I think we need to think: is this the right area?
Right.
If your neighbors don't want you there, maybe move somewhere else.
Right.
Where your neighbors like you more, and they want a few of those jobs coming in. So maybe look at a different area. Because the last thing you want is a business where you're not wanted.
Sure. Yeah.
Because then you have an uphill battle.
Everyone wants jobs, and they want the ad valorem property tax benefits of business and investment, right? But you don't want the harm to property values, environment, right? That kind of things. And I know there's concern of AI being used, against people, or, people have that fear of surveillance and their data being exposed, and, not that we don't give it up voluntarily. Through our phones, we give up our data voluntarily, but you're right. I think there's a learning curve. And
I'm one of those people that wouldn't even turn iMessage on, and now I wear an Apple Watch. My son's gone, but years ago I wouldn't even turn iMessage on. It's like, I don't want to be tracked.
Right.
I was really worried about.
Now we've got location services.
Oh, yeah.
We track our kids through Life 360 or something.
Exactly. That's what we got to know where my kids are. I know they're safe. We're good.
We voluntarily put our information in our pocket, and so we allow it. And even back in the day when we had phone books, and you could look up everyone's phone number, address, and
I think we just got to think about it holistically.
Right.
If you're signing up for it, that's one thing.
Sure.
Like our phones, we're signing up for this, but like these flock cameras, I'm 100%. I think that's a constitutional violation, right? Just if you really think about what these flock cameras are capable of doing. I saw a story the other day where a cop walked on a doorstep and said, "You stole this package off here, and we have you in this area at a certain time." That is not how these flock cameras are supposed to work.
Right.
And it sets up for that abuse. So
sure, they use data off our cell phones. When there's a crime, they'll pinpoint cell phone use, right?
Yeah.
What is the tool in one area?
I've seen those movies. Now I haven't seen that firsthand, but
it matters, if who's in control of that data. And we saw during COVID, if we're not careful, government will overstep its bounds.
Yeah.
If government's not put, in a certain area, the government will, power will corrupt.
Every time.
You have to be careful there.
Every time. That's why, and I get it. It's hard to, constitutionally, I sworn oath to the Constitution. Therefore, I'm against these flock cameras. But if our kids were taken tomorrow,
we're missing,
we would be all for flock cameras. Go on the camera and figure out where this kid is. Right. So I think we need to look at this holistically as well, but we still can't violate that Constitution.
Sure.
It's so important that we stay within those lines. of the Constitution. I was just talking to somebody else about this the other day, is where the Constitution, and why I dig so far in the Constitution and why I want to understand it. And I asked someone the question, does a Supreme Court decision supersede and outweigh the United States Constitution? And anybody who knows will say no. The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Then why are all of our attorneys, why do they lean into Supreme Court decisions prior to going to the Constitution? And it's because those Supreme Court decisions are supposed to be if it was about the Constitution, if it's not a legal case, but if they're supposed to be the interpretation of what the Constitution said. But so often that's not the case. That's, this is
They're seeing activism in the courts.
Like think about the Lemon test, where the coach prayed in the middle of the field, Coach Kennedy, where they abandoned the Lemon test. This is the 3-pronged test that said if something that was unconstitutional, if prayer or whatever was unconstitutional. They've now abandoned that. But in that vote, it was a 6-3 vote. Maybe it was a 5-4. I think that one was a 6-3 vote. That coach could go pray in the middle of the field by himself, or invite kids. But he didn't invite kids. He said he didn't invite kids. But that was to go pray for a coach to pray in the middle of the field. 3 Supreme Court justices voted against that. So that means 3 Supreme Court justices did not understand the Constitution and our
as part of his freedom of speech rights.
Yeah. I mean,
First Amendment rights.
Yeah, it blows my mind where 3 Supreme Court justices said that coach could not go pray by himself in the middle of the field. That's too much power in too few hands.
Sure.
Which scares me. And that's Roe versus Wade, for that to be overturned. Were they right the first time or the second time? That's why we have to come back to the Constitution and figure out what that said, or what those words meant when the time it was written.
Well, I respect your views on the Constitution for sure. So we're talking economic development. Go back to like manufacturing.
Thank you for getting me off the Constitution. So I can consider for next time.
Yeah, that's a big deal, especially the Northeast Oklahoma is so much different than Southwest Oklahoma. And on the national stage, how does Oklahoma stay competitive? And same thing with smelters, the manufacturing, the data centers, our navigable waters. What coming up economic development? Where does the state belong in that whole talk?
That is a great question. So when I was knocking thousands of doors my first election, I kept hearing the same thing. We love the small town feel, but we like Walmart next door to us.
Sure.
Something's got to give, folks. Like, do we want Walmart next door to us, or do we want the small town? I think that's the majority of us. We like the convenience of being able to run down the road and buy farm equipment at your location, but we probably don't want the tractors running by us right next door to us at 2 a.m.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, so it's that balance that I think we have to do in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma is that small town feel. What I've heard about Tulsa, for instance, many, many times, is it is the biggest small town you will ever be in. It's because everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. But it's a big city.
Yeah.
But everybody knows everybody. It's I don't want to say cliquish, but it really is. At times you can feel that way. But it's the biggest. It's phenomenal how people still communicate and talk. It is that Oklahoma spirit, that Oklahoma drive. But I think on our economic side of things, Brian Hill actually ran a study the past 8 years. I'm going to follow that study up, Chairman Hill, I should say. I'm going to follow that study up and continue with this an entire day study to find out the laws that we're putting in place, are they benefiting the constituents in which we serve? And I think that's extremely important to do every year. And I'm going to continue that study every year, because it's important to know, did this law benefit anybody, or is it just another law in the books? Do we need to repeal it? Or do we have an old law we need to repeal that will help you out? But it's talking to those career techs and commerce divisions to find out what we can do better as a state, what laws we put in place. But I think at the same time, we don't want we don't want that big city everywhere in Oklahoma. We still love that small town feel.
Yeah, what's the balance? If we want the jobs, we want manufacturing, we want those, but we also want our rural feel, our small town.
Yeah.
How do we keep our kids here? We need good jobs and
Well, think about,
economic development.
have you seen the movie Cinderella Man based on a true story? It's it's about it's a boxing movie, but the time frame is around the Great Depression. And to see what they went through, there was a dad that was sitting down eating this movie, and it was just a piece of bologna. That's what they had. His daughter was still hungry, and he gave his bologna to his daughter and said, "Oh, I've got a big dinner. I had a big dinner early or something like that. I don't know." He made some excuse to give the bologna to his daughter. That's real. The Great Depression was real.
Sure.
That was less than 100 years ago.
That was real hardship.
That was real
We
hardship.
haven't seen that.
So do we want to just say no more economic advancement? No, but we also have to have that balance to make sure we're doing what we can to continue that growth incrementally. The explosive growth, as in a business, I think it's the same as government. Explosive growth can be dangerous. So I like the incremental growth to make sure what we're doing makes sense here at the Capitol.
Yeah, it's kind of like medical marijuana. It kind of happened too fast. It blew up too fast, and we couldn't control it.
Yep.
I had to be careful on some of those. And
We're still fighting that.
yeah,
I saw something the other day where the Attorney General put out where he's still arresting people, cartel,
still have legal grows.
mafia,
Yeah.
everything else. You're thinking Oklahoma, but they're here.
Well, Oklahoma's diversifying. We've gone from oil and gas and agriculture. Now we have aerospace, film, right? And
Yeah.
So we are diversifying as a state and being more attractive for business growth and for small business growth. I'm sure you do too.
Yep.
Lower taxes and anything in education are you involved in legislation for education advancement? And
I sit on both.
that's been a big
education-
talk this year, right?
Yeah, I've been on both the education committees. So here's this is what I've told many people, told a few gubernatorial candidates this theory of mine. I've told senators, I've really sat down and said, guys, in business, if I told you that out of the 50 companies that you were the worst company ever, the first thing you're going to ask me is, how was I graded?
Right. That's true.
You're not going to start throwing money at it and start fixing everything. You're going to say, well, how are you grading me?
What was the criteria?
And you might look at that criteria and go, well, half of that's junk. I shouldn't even pay attention to that. Now, I'm not saying that's in education, but the first thing we should do is look at how we're graded. So how we're graded, there's 15 different bullet points that equate to 80% of our grade. And there's 16 different bullet points that equate to 20% of our grade. And that 20% is around safety. But the first thing we need to do is put a subject matter expert. If we really care about moving from 50th to first, we need to put a subject matter expert on every single one of those bullet points to figure out, to talk to teachers, to parents, to kids, to leaders in the industry, to talk to other states, to figure out what they're doing in that area. Say if it's ACT scores, hire a subject matter expert just for that
Sure.
one scenario and hold them accountable. Say, if we're lacking in this area, it's on you. You figure out how to get there and make sure they're compensated for their effort. But I think if we put a subject matter expert, now maybe on the 16 different bullet points that relate to safety, maybe we put a subject matter expert on 2 of those each, depending. But if we really drill down on how to move our grade forward, then we can move education forward. But we have to figure out, if we really care about that grade, we have to figure out, are we even talking apples to apples?
Right.
And I've heard many times that we're not,
Sure.
where other states are higher than us, but we're not talking apples to apples. Where we're
Clear how they're measured.
well, I think one scenario is where we're grading everybody and they're only grading their top students.
Right.
Well, that's not fair. We got to figure that out. But we need a subject matter expert to look into that, to say, we've got to fix this, or make it go public that this is why we're so low here. And if we move this, then we could fix that grade. But I think on education, I love it. A lot of our reps try to stay out of the education committee. I asked for it because I have 2 kids currently in public education, and I love public education. But 2 years ago, my wife and I started looking at Victory Christian. And why would a guy that loves public education, loves Friday Night Lights, I love what's going on in public education, why would a guy that loves public education start looking at Victory Christian? And it's when you have your schools that are getting so far off their community standards, that's when parents that love public education start looking elsewhere.
Sure.
So that's what my effort to try to move school board elections, to make sure those school board members are representing the community standards, and people are actually voting in that election. Um,
That's right. You ran a bill to move it to the general or Colquitt or primary.
August and November, yes, yeah. And it failed, but we'll get it.
That's another one of those you just got to keep working.
It is, and you know, the first year I moved the school board seats to 4-year terms, and it was just a really, I don't want to say aggressive approach, because I think it would have really done. I thought it was a great piece of legislation, but it was a lot of moving parts. This past year, Senator Seifert and I, we ran a bill. She actually the Senate bill. I was the House author. We ran a bill that was left all the school board members on 5-year terms, and it was just a little. It was a few less moving parts, and I think it would have passed if it would have hit the floor, but it would have been close. But I don't want to run a piece of legislation that's just barely passed, and I want everybody to.
Sure.
I really want it to make sense, and so we. This year it did not hit the floor, and not from lack of trying. We really tried. But next year, with 20 new members, I think 20 plus new members, I think we'll have success on moving those elections. And here's the deal: on moving the elections, it will increase voter turnout. That's been proven across the nation, and it will save the schools money. So even if voter turnout stayed the same, why wouldn't we move them to save the schools money?
Right.
Consolidate the elections so we move them to save the schools money. The opposition on this is we're going to get our school board members mixed up in all the political games, political. I mean, think about how many commercials we saw in the governor race this year.
Sure.
You don't want your school board members mixed up in that. So I understand that.
Sure.
And that's why this last piece of legislation stated that the school board races would move to the runoff for senators or representatives to our runoff. And if it goes to a runoff, then that would move to the November ballot. But 82% of our school board elections run unopposed.
Unopposed, right.
So we've got just under 2,000 school board seats that are just, handed to a friend or colleague or relative even, which...
Yeah, very low turnout when they're in April or February, whenever less school bonds and school board elections are, a couple hundred votes.
6% average, and even we had schools under 1%.
Wow.
School elections under 1%, but a 6% average turnout is what we're getting right now. And we're getting right for the state, we're getting 21%. This last election, I think it was 21.4% turnout. If we could just get above 12%, 15% turnout for these schools, but they're extremely important. I've had people say, I didn't know I could vote in these elections because I don't have a kid in public school. I said, yes, you need to go vote in these elections. It's the future of Oklahoma. These kids are the future of Oklahoma. And you need to make sure those school board members understand your community standards. Because to be a school board member, you have to have a high school diploma or equivalent, then live in the area.
Yeah.
Registered voter, of course, all that. But that's it. You don't have to have a doctorate in education, but you need to understand your community and you need to have a high school diploma.
Sure. Yeah. And voters need to educate themselves.
Yeah.
And that's one of your most important rights.
Talk to the school voters, talk to the candidates to figure out, does this guy or girl align with what I believe?
So you've got your next election coming in November, and you do have an opponent. And
yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got an independent, and it's a. Don't want to talk too much about it inside the Capitol, just because of the perception. But got a one in November 3rd, and we'll see if I'm here for the next 2 years.
Sure. Okay. Well, and as far as advice, general life advice or advice for someone who's going to run for office?
If you're going to run for an open seat. That's a big one. Run for an open seat. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess my life advice, if on running for elections, would be do your best to run for an open seat if you have it on your heart to serve. Or I guess I shouldn't say that because there's some people that I probably shouldn't say that at all. So we'll probably need to cut that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because really, cut that part out because really you can't hold it against somebody if they're running against a Democrat or somebody they completely believe and they think, I'm going to put my name on it just because I believe different. So I guess I should say, if you're going to run for an open seat, at least visit with that person, your elected official first to make sure that you don't align, but don't try to replace someone who will listen to you and will do a good job and will pay attention to whatever needs, especially if they align with your values. If they don't, then run against them.
Sure. Yeah.
How about that?
What's the advice of balancing family and business and running for office and serving?
I think just that balance.
Yeah.
It's that balance of life. If you spend too much time at your job, your family's going to suffer. Spend too much time in the Word, your family's going to suffer, and your business is going to suffer. So it's that balance of faith, family, work. That's taken me a long time to learn that balance.
Sure.
For a long time, I was straight family. I'm sorry. For a long time, I was straight work and would leave my family alone. And I wouldn't say ignore my family at times, but when you're working till midnight and get back up at 4 a.m., you're not telling your kids good night. It's tough.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
but you have to have that balance. There are going to be those days, but pay them back with a vacation. I put a post on LinkedIn years ago that said, take your family with you. If there's anything that I've learned for entrepreneurs, take your family with you. If you're going to the beach, take them for work. Take your family with you for work. If you're going, I took them to Washington. Take your family with you. Just as long as it's like inside the budget. But
Sure.
if you could do as much with
Get
your
them
family
involved.
to get them involved. But that balance is so important. Is the work safe, and make sure the priorities are right. With me is the faith first. It hadn't always been,
Sure.
but now it is. With faith first, then a wife, my kids, and my work, and then balance those four.
Any quotes you go to?
By Thomas Jefferson. When it's his quote about, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, I don't have in front of me, but with someone who would risk liberty for a little bit of safety, they certainly here. And I think that quote is powerful. And I think
Sure.
if more people realize your liberty is being taken so you can have a little bit of safety, that's a very dangerous. That's more government interference, more government overreach. And I think that's what we as servants need to watch every day, is making sure we're not attempting to take a liberty away, because we don't have the authority to take someone's liberty away
Sure.
without due process of law. But it seems we as servants, we ride that line sometimes of taking liberty away.
With good intentions sometimes, right? You grow
Well-
government with intentions of helping constituents, but
Yeah, the next thing you know, it's we realize that's taking liberty away from them
Sure.
to do something. And multiple times, the Oklahoma State Constitution, in Article 2, Section 7, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, 14th Amendment, you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The word liberty means free will.
sure.
It means you should be able to do what you want to when you want to. But there is that balance. That do you want someone doing 100 miles an hour down the road in front of your kid's school when your kid's out there? So you've got to really have that.
Freedom with limits.
Well,
Guardrails.
it's some kind of a guardrails. We've got to,
Sure.
like everything else, we've got to think of it holistically. Of course, everybody's going to say, no, I don't want someone doing 100 miles an hour.
You've
That's
told me
crazy.
before, as Republicans too, we are for limited government, not no government.
not anti-government. And there's
There's little protections in place.
there's some folks where if it has anything to do with growing government, they will vote no. But that's not the platform. GOP platform says states limited government, not anti-government. A no vote on everything would be, I don't like government. Get
Sure.
government. But I don't know if you've ever been to Costa Rica or not. But Costa Rica and Olaf and I, that's what we went this past year, and that is what it looks like to have too little government, where there's potholes
Right.
on every road, no sidewalks. There's barbed wire at the top of all the buildings, all the homes, because of all the theft and crime. There's not enough police officers, not enough fire department firemen. And it's a beautiful place. It just has bad government.
Sure.
It's not America.
Needed a little bit of limitations in place.
Yeah, you still have to have
Some
those
guardrails.
limitations, but I think they might have taken limits to government to the
Yeah.
hilt.
So you talked about vacations and sports and things like that with the family. What do y'all do for fun?
Annalie, what do we do for fun? Oh wow, yeah, we hunt, fish. Well, so I love hunting and fishing. This year I'll be going elk hunting again. I love hunting, fishing, and going to the lake. We on the way here, my daughter came up with me today, Anna Lee. We were looking at places to go on vacation, and we're looking at Seaside. We love Seaside, Florida.
Yeah.
My father-in-law, we lost him this past year, but he loves Seaside, and we're going to continue that tradition and continue to go to Seaside, Florida.
Family
So
time and
family time away at the
disconnect.
beach, and disconnect as much as we can.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Where-
it's tough as a business owner though to completely
Oh, sure.
disconnect. So I try to spend 1 to 2 hours, on my phone or a computer, and then disconnect.
You make time just for that? You kind of put it away just for family or just for?
I do, and my wife Katie, she's really good at, hey, leave Dad alone for 2 hours.
Yeah.
At noon, he said he would join us, and then I'll have my time to get caught up, and then I can get back to
That's good.
family times.
Where's your favorite place to eat?
Probably my favorite place to eat is Pizza Parlor in Fort Smith, Arkansas, or Van Buren. There's one on both. But I grew up, so before a football game, it had a buffet, and it was a buffet that we could all afford. It was $3. So I grew up on this pizza. So I love this pizza. It's phenomenal. It's now it's not $3 anymore, but
Yeah.
but I think I grew up on that pizza, so that having that pizza is a real treat. And I can't go there. We live here. It's in Fort Smith, so
Yeah. A little hard to get
so
there.
it's a treat. So when you go there, so I love in Arkansas Pizza Parlor, in Oklahoma. I would have to say one of my favorites is Coleman's.
Coleman's Burgers.
Coleman's all beef burgers. It's a
In Okmulgee, right?
Mogi. Yeah, it's my wife's family's business, and it's a really good restaurant. And I know I've helped cook one day. I was telling you, and when you mess something up or you don't do it exactly, they will throw it in the trash.
They can get it right.
If a pie is over, if a pie won't sit the next day, they throw them all in the trash or give them away or something to somebody. But it's all fresh, and they will not do anything that's not fresh. And fresh ground beef every day. So it's a ground steak, fresh. I don't want to mess it up.
Sure.
Fresh ground steak every day, but it's really they really do a good job of keeping things
Coleman's
fresh.
Burgers in
And
Okmulgee.
they're very anal about making sure it's perfect.
Good.
But it heads out the door to the customer.
Well, would you be willing to give out your contact information if constituents or if anybody wanted to contact you?
No,
Emails or anything like that? How can people
no,
reach you?
I don't give that out. I'm just kidding. Got my cell phone number. So I used to have 2 cell phone numbers. So I'm glad you asked that. So right now I only have 1 cell phone number. It's 918-850-2274. Again, that's 918-850-2274. That's my cell phone number. And that's my personal cell phone number. I used to have 2 cell phone numbers, but I got rid of one. I got tired of the 2 cell phones. So that number is how to get a hold of me if my constituents need me. Or, often I work with constituents around the state to where I connect them with their representative.
Sure.
Some of them feel more comfortable calling me, and that's okay. But I have constituents of mine that feel more comfortable calling another representative. That's okay. Call them,
Sure.
and if they can help you, they will. And if I can help you, I definitely will. So,
They
of
can
course,
reach out.
email chris.banning@okhouse.gov. If you got an amazing coworker that helps me navigate through that, I mean, she's going to shoot me because I just gave that.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. That's actually publicly available. But
Yeah.
chris.banning@okhouse.gov for any needs, or welcome to contact me on my cell.
Good. Is there anything else we needed to add that we didn't talk about or anything?
I don't know. Megan, what do you think? Anything we need to add over here?
We catch everything?
Catch everything? Yeah, I think. What about you?
Yeah.
Or what? Let's interview you for a second. So
This is about
so-
Chris Banning.
So, and are you going to step back up, or what are you? Because I was,
We'll see what it takes.
yeah. I mean, you had a great opponent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think y'all got along pretty well from what I saw, and
I think you'll be all right.
but I look forward to serving with him. And as you know, I was on Team Cody for
bet.
since the get go. I really was hoping to serve, and maybe we'll be able to serve together soon. So what do you think?
Whatever the calling's needed.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll do a good job and I won't need to run against him.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he will. Maybe who's
think
the
so.
sender over there?
Yep. We're represented by Kimball Sakieri.
Okay, so you got a good sender.
Yeah.
So years out, but you never know what time.
You never know. Yeah.
Time
wherever-
might spin her to the federal side, or she might accept something different on I wouldn't say higher level, but on
Yeah.
a different level of
I'm
government.
kind of like you, wherever I need to serve, whether that's my local chamber, the school board, county commissioner,
Gotcha.
or just my business, wherever I'm needed.
If you were offered an appointment, say on the governor's cabinet coming up, would you entertain something like that?
Sure. Wherever I need to serve.
Okay.
You bet.
Yeah. Well, thank you for putting your
Sure.
name on the ballot.
Yeah.
Because I know it's tough. And
Well, I appreciate your support through the process.
absolutely, I know everything happens for a reason. So I don't know how God navigated this one, but it'll be fun to see
Yeah.
how it turns out.
Well, I appreciate you meeting with me today.
Yeah.
It's been a good conversation. We found a good place, and
Yeah.
and I'm glad you made the time for me. And so if people want to contact you, they can reach out through email or phone.
Yep.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, I
Hey,
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for driving all the way to the Capitol.
You bet.
It's a beautiful building, and thanks for
It is. The
thanks for
people's house.
thanks for the time.
You bet, Chris. Thank you.
Appreciate it.